593 and offers committee substitute HB 593 and recognizes Representative Collier to explain the bill, and then if you'll also explain the difference of the substitute, because it basically, your substitute deals with our issue that we just talked about, and I think it enhances that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I want to thank you for allowing me the privilege to introduce Committee Substitute House Bill 593 for your careful consideration. And I want to thank Representative Helen Gittens for her gracious comments. I am committed to working with her and everyone else on this particular matter.
And hopefully Representative Guerin, so that he'll keep you having an office and a
thank you. I do want to thank you. That's right. In fact, Chairman Guerin has signed on as a joint author of this particular bill, Committee Substitute House Bill 593. And I want to thank Representative Dwayne Burns also for signing on as a joint author of Committee Substitute for House Bill 593. And now, see, we arrived at this bill after meeting with various law enforcement stakeholders and representatives from the Texas Humane Legislation Network. But truly, we would not be here without my constituent, Cindy and Mark Bowling. Now, they weren't bit. Their dog was killed. Right. That's what happened in their situation. And I want to thank Chairman Charlie Guerin and his staff who worked closely on this issue for months. And in the case of Cindy Bowling and Mark Bowling, they worked on this issue for years. And you'll hear testimony from Cindy. She's here today to provide testimony about her situation. Committee Substitute House Bill 593 introduces a new measure of protection for our valued peace officers in the face of a canine encounter. Currently, not all Texas officers receive training to prepare themselves for canine contact, though they will likely, very likely, be put in this type of situation many times throughout their careers. Now, Chairman Phillips, there are no canine encounter programs in your district. Vice Chairman Navarrete, there's none in his. Metcalf, Representative Metcalf, Representative Moody, and Representative White, and Representative Ray. There are no canine encounter programs in your districts. However, in Representative Johnson's, the entire Dallas County Sheriff's Department has completed canine encounter training. Representative Burns and your district, Cleburne Police Department, has been trained in canine encounters. And Representative Tony Dale, both the Leander and the Cedar Park Police Department in your districts have already been trained in canine encounters. This bill is designed to better inform peace officers on how to avoid and defend themselves against a canine attack, as well as protecting the safety and lives of the family pet. Officers interact with a canine roughly 1 in every 3 times they approach a home while on the job. Therefore, this bill focuses its attention solely on the animal that officers come into contact with most frequently. Now, Chairman Phillips, I know that you said that you would like to see this include all types of animals, but there's currently a program.
I didn't say all types of animals.
Well, you said primates, snakes, big cats, and there are a lot of big cats in Texas.
Yeah.
There are, yeah, I mean, that's just widely known. But I'll tell you right now that there is a program that's currently in place that Chief Vickers could talk about if you need to, that does currently address different types of animals. But this particular bill focuses on the canine, which the officers are more likely than not to encounter when they approach the home. Specifically, Committee Substitute for House Bill 593 requires newly licensed peace officers and officers seeking intermediate or advanced proficiency certification to complete a 4-hour canine encounter training program. If this bill passes, all those who enter basic training will be enrolled in a class that meets the requirements of this bill. This program that we're talking about will be established by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement and will be reviewed by the Commission every 4 years. Updates will be made necessary to keep our peace officers as safe and as informed as possible. Now, keep in mind, exemptions will be given for the more than 3,000 officers who have already completed canine encounter training in order to avoid unnecessary repetition. After careful consideration and meeting with important people who this bill affects, the following changes were made from the original bill. Minimum training requirements decreased from 8 hours to 4 hours. So that's one of the differences from the original bill to the committee substitute. Officers licensed after January 1st, 2016 must complete the program no later than the 2nd anniversary of their licensing and not the 1st. And also the committee substitute changes the animal encounter training to a more specific canine encounter training. And finally, the substitute clarifies that officers must complete the training in a classroom. Texas Municipal Police Association and the SPCA offer a free program that meets the requirements of this bill. Also, there are more than 106 law enforcement academies that would be able to accommodate the requirements of this bill. Meeting with selected stakeholders gave us a much more informed view of what this bill needs to accomplish, and it was updated to better fit the needs of the law enforcement officers it was designed to protect. Texas peace officers put their lives on the line to protect our communities every day. In order for them to do this in a way that keeps them safe, we need to keep officers informed and trained to deal with dynamic situations. Today we have several witnesses, including Cindy Bowling, members of the law enforcement community, and other victims who have worked together to bring this bill forward. Mr. Chairman, with that, I want to thank you for your attention. Unless there's any questions, I will reserve the right to close.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why does it have to be classroom training and not allow online training for any portion of this?
Well, after we spoke with, currently there is a program that's in place. It's an 8-hour program, and it is offered in the classroom. And it was considered through the Humane Society and most law enforcement officers that the in-room classroom training would be beneficial. And also, the officers have to take 40 hours of continuing education every 2 years, and so this program can be fulfilled within that classroom setting. And I'm sure that there's other people who can testify more specifically into that, but that was what I was told. A lot of times when we're here in the legislature, we rely on the experts to give us the information, and that's what I was doing. The people who are affected by this most, and this is what they all came to the agreement with. Yes.
You mentioned TML and police officer associations would give this class for free. Is that right?
Well, there is currently a class through the Texas Municipal Police Association and the SPCA that is offered, and it is free. It's a free course that can be used around the state.
Okay.
Members, any other questions? Fantastic. We'll let you reserve your right to close. Chair would call Cindy Bowling to testify for the bill. Ms. Bowling, welcome. Glad you came to testify today. And if you'll introduce yourself and I show
Yes,
that
sir.
you're for the bill.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, committee members, my name is Cindy Bowling, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Mark Bowling. We live in Fort Worth, Texas, and we are most definitely in support of House Bill 593. Our presence at this hearing is not random. On the afternoon of May 26, 2012, a young Fort Worth police officer walked down our driveway. He was at the wrong address, investigating a 2-day-old copper theft call. Mark and I had no idea why he was at our home, but we certainly weren't concerned. We watched our border collie, Lily, go up to him. No big deal. He's a police officer. What we did not know at the time was that officer had a fear of dogs, and he had never received training to deal with or overcome that fear. He shot our Lily in front of us before we even knew what was happening. Internal Affairs told us that he said he thought our other dog was a pit bull, so he shot the dog closest to him. He wasn't even afraid of Lily. He was afraid of our other dog, a Shepherd Lab mix, that never approached him, and he shot our Lily. It's been devastating to us, and it was horrible for Frank Brown when he heard my screams and he realized my Lily was dead. We soon learned that Fort Worth did not train its officers for canine encounters, and that no law enforcement agencies in Texas give training to their officers for canine encounters, even though police officers are the first responders for everything. I've learned that mail carriers and Federal Express and meter readers are all trained for canine encounters, but police officers are not. And as Representative Collier said, 1 in 3 calls involves an interaction with a dog, including traffic stops. Mark and I started our statewide campaign in 2012 at the urging of our police department, Fort Worth. And we started working in partnership with law enforcement and the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, THLN, which is the commission that oversees the standards for education of our peace officers. THLN confirmed for us that the only way to get this training statewide for our officers is through legislation. And now we're here. When our Lily was killed, we learned that thousands of canines are killed across our country, mostly due to lack of training. There's a report on that by the DOJ. We have been very fortunate, Mark and I, because our city stepped up. Our city recognized immediately a serious problem, and they mandated classroom canine encounter training in 2012. Our entire department is trained because of their action. I've looked at over 100 reports over the years, and most of them say, if not all of them say, deadly force was used out of fear of imminent bodily injury because of the canine encounter. When so many officers are faced with an encounter practically every single day, I would ask you to agree with me. They deserve to be trained to deal with and overcome a fear of a canine encounter. They deserve this. Of the hundreds of shootings in Texas, many of them are within close proximity of family members, including children. This presents a very serious safety issue. When Lily was shot, I was standing 10 feet from her. They never found the bullet that ricocheted off the concrete. They told me it was going so fast there's no telling where that bullet went. I was told that by Internal Affairs. Since 2012, officers have told Mark and me that they have been wanting and needing this training. The training should happen before a tragedy and certainly before a city becomes the subject of a media tidal wave. While this legislation will teach many skills, and as much as so many people would like it, it will not prohibit the use of lethal force on a canine. We live in a real world, and it's not an ideal world. And Mark and I even recognize that there are some situations that lethal force has to be used. We recognize that. We ask you, as our elected decision makers, you now have the opportunity to create this training that is making a difference for our peace officers and our citizens already. With the passage of this bill, eventually all Texas peace officers will have been trained to address in a non-lethal manner a fear of imminent bodily injury from a canine. This legislation is good for everybody, every citizen, every community in Texas, of which, of course, peace officers are a huge part. And I would say the dogs are not our whole lives, but they certainly make our lives a whole lot better. And I know a lot of peace officers that have dogs, and the last thing they want to do is have to shoot one. I appreciate so much that this day has finally come. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and coming down and sharing your story with us. I know it's not easy to do. Members, any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Have a safe trip home.
All right.
Chair would call Amy, is it Noel with the City of Cleveland Police Department? Oh.
May I?
Please.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm nervous.
That's okay. And just for the record, just so it's clear.
Cindy Bowling.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Lily. This is the Lily that was killed, standing 10 feet from me, our 5-year-old border collie. It's our baby. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think some of y'all have maybe seen the smaller pictures.
You may have. Yeah, you may have, and I appreciate you for taking the time to looking at it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of the committee, my name is Amy Canal, and I am currently serving as the Acting Chief of Police for the Cleveland Police Department. I hold a Master Peace Officer certification and have over 20 years' experience in law enforcement. I also have a master's degree in public administration from the University of Texas at Arlington. I am here to speak to you today about the importance of the Canine Encounters training. In August 2014, officers from the Cleveland Police Department responded to a call for assistance from a family who was trapped in their vehicle in their driveway by 3 pit bulldogs. Officers responded to the scene and were able to contain and return 2 of the dogs to their owner. The 3rd dog was shot and killed by one of the police officers. We were early adopters of body cameras for our patrol officers, so the incident was captured by the officer's camera. While the video demonstrates some of the issues with these cameras, including limited perspectives and blocked views, the video was able to confirm the officer's account of the event. A copy of the video was quickly released to the family following the shooting. We received no complaint or other feedback until well into October, when the video went viral on the internet. The situation quickly became critical. We received calls, letters, emails, and social media feedback from around the world. Threats were made against our police department, the police officer, as well as his family. The website for the City of Cleveland was repeatedly attacked and had to be taken offline. Our 911 call center was repeatedly overwhelmed with calls and was even the target of a phone bomb event. We received a bomb threat at our police department that forced an evacuation. Open carry groups joined with animal rights organizations to stage protests at our police department. We had very real concerns for the safety of our officers and our community. More than 6 months later...
Just a second, I just want to make clear, we don't allow any video except for the media, and it's video, too, so thank you.
More than 6 months following the event, our police building and our patrol vehicles are still being vandalized. We had an incident 2 weeks ago where they were spray painted. Many questions were asked of us following the shooting, which pointed very clearly to a training void. Questions related to force options, particularly the use of tasers, as well as questions about animal behavior were common. Canine Encounters training will help fill this void and provide officers with effective options and valuable knowledge to use when we come into contact with dogs while performing our regular duties. In December and January, we worked with the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas to provide canine encounter trainings to all of our officers and officers from several other local law enforcement agencies. The training was very informative and was well received by the participants. The owner of the dog that was killed was pleased to hear that we had conducted the training, and they expressed a hope that the training would help prevent similar incidents in the future. Pets are beloved family members for many of us. Providing peace officers with this training will decrease the number of lethal canine encounters and serve to improve the relationship between our peace officers and the communities we serve.
Thank you for coming and testifying. So y'all are for the bill?
Yes.
And you think that this would help your officers and officers across the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Members, any questions? All right. Thank you for your time today. Chair would call Cole Middleton, testify for himself, and he's in favor of the bill. If you'll state your name, sir. And did your baby just leave?
Yes, sir, my wife.
Or did we want to wait so she can come back? I mean, we can let someone else go.
She'd probably love to see this.
Well, why don't you have a seat then, and why don't we call someone else that way?
Someone went to
get her. She can step in at the time there. Yes, ma'am. She's just right there. They got a little hungry, So.
That's right. We may need to.
He's my little man, so. Okay. I'll be stating my name. I'm Cole Middleton. We live 60 miles east of Dallas. That's my wife, Jana, and our son, Colson. We have a dairy farm, family farm, 60 miles east of Dallas. There she is. We milk about 400 cows, and we run about 100 head of beef cows. Me and my dad, my grandfather started it back in the 70s. And we all have dogs that works with us. We load up every morning. We load our dogs. They go with us all day. When we come home, our dogs come home. And they work just as hard as we do. Now, I want you to imagine that your house is broke into. Then I want you to imagine that your your best tool that you use for your business was taken. And not only was it taken, you lost your family pet too. It was killed. But it wasn't killed by the burglars. It was killed by the cop that come to your house 2 hours after you called the department to file a claim or to file a report. Because your dog barked at him. And she was on the porch where I'd left her about 10 minutes before that, because I finally gave up and went back to work on the tractor right behind my house. Before I could get to my house, I watched the officer pull in my driveway. Before I could get back, he had gotten out and shot my 35-pound blue heeler in the front yard, in the back of the head. He shot her from behind, proven by necropsy. One of the worst days of my life. I'll just tell you, I lost my best hand that day, my best employee on our family farm. And I can assure you, if that deputy had to load cattle without that dog, he'd have never shot her. He'd have let her, she'd have never bit anybody, but he'd have let her bite him all over because that was a good dog. Everybody got along with Candy. Encounter all kinds of people at the sale barn. I go to Walmart, Candy stays in the back of the truck. I mean, people comes up to her, pets her, no problems. But that day, the officer had a gun on his hip. That's all he had to deal with whatever come to him, whether it be a 10-year-old child or a 3-year-old 35-pound dog. Other means need to be taught to these officers to deal with these dogs non-lethally. Just like my UPS man, just like my mail lady. We never had any problems with Candy. That officer was arrested, charged with animal cruelty. They took his law license from him. He can never be a cop again. And if it's proven, just like it was, or if there's enough evidence, like it was in Candy's case, that an officer shot a dog unnecessarily, there's recourse for that now. I mean, you can be held liable just like, and accountable just like I would if I shot your dog unnecessarily. I'd go to jail for animal cruelty. So I'm in support of it. Appreciate your time here today. It's been about a year ago, and at the time my wife was 5 weeks pregnant with our son, so it was real stressful. But she made it, he made it, we're all here. God's blessed me this year. God bless y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate you coming and sharing. I know it's not easy to do. Let me make sure I have any questions. Thanks, sir. Have a safe trip back. Chair would call Sherry Schultz to testify for the bill for herself. Ms. Schultz, welcome.
My name is Sherry Schultz. I'm from Amarillo, Texas.
You came a long way as well.
Yes, I did. Panhandle was well supported today.
Yeah.
I'm going to share with you a picture of our dog. This is Smokey. I have 2 pictures. So Smokey was an 8-year-old blue heeler Australian Shepherd cross. Sorry. I am here in support of HB 9593. I came to share my story about Smokey and promote the mandatory training of law enforcement on canine encounters. So like I said, Smokey was an 8-year-old blue heeler cross. He loved people, loved our family, loved all of our friends. He was a trained agility dog. He also worked cattle, like Cole's dog. I started training dogs as a young child. I was about 10 years old. I've had a few dogs here and there that I've trained for fun, and I started training Smokey intent to go to competition in agility. But on Saturday, March 31st, 2012, Smokey was shot and killed by a Dalhart, Texas police officer. That day, my husband and I and our 1-year-old daughter were in Amarillo at a horse show. We came home late that evening to find Smokey missing, which was very abnormal. We searched for him for 4 days. We posted signs all over town. Of course, Dalhart's a small town. It's about 6,000-7,000. So it's not a big place. We called the vet clinics. Nobody had seen him. We actually made a we called animal control to see if anybody had actually picked him up, and they hadn't seen him. On Wednesday, that next week, Joe, the animal control officer, actually called my husband and said, I need to see you. Can we meet? So he came to my husband's workplace and had pictures of Smokey shot in the head. So at this point we were looking for our dog, and then now all of a sudden he's dead. He was shot by a police officer. We later discovered that Smokey had gotten out of our yard in the middle of the afternoon, was playing with neighborhood kids, playing ball like he did with every kid he ever met. And the kid's mother had called the animal patrol to come pick him up because she knew he had to belong to somebody. He was well-trained, did tricks. So that day was actually Joe's day off. And so they sent a Dalhart police officer in a squad car to pick him up. And when he came to the house, the dog was actually in the house with the children and the family. And the kids showed him all the tricks, what he did and how fun he was and how sweet he was. And then the police officer actually grabbed him by the collar, led him to his car. When they got close to the car, Smokey got scared and started trying to get away. Smokey then fled back to our house, which was about 2 blocks over. There was an empty lot between it. So the officers shot and fired and shot 3 times, the last one ending about 10 yards from our house. This all happened while the kids that were playing with Smokey only moments before watched their new friend shot and killed. Our neighbor across the street was actually in his yard as the shots were fired in his direction. Was Smokey being shot really worth endangering our neighbors' families? And why didn't the police officer go get the animal control vehicle like he had access to? If this officer had been properly trained to handle a dog, we would still have our Smokey. At that time, the police chief had told me that the policy in Dalhart was to shoot a dog that showed any aggression. Simply put, and according to non-biased witness, he showed no aggression. The police chief apologized and promised to change policy with my help. I never heard from him or the Dalhart Police PD again. I have lost all faith in those that are there to serve and protect. That is why this training needs to be mandated through the state, and our families and other families like us will not suffer. This training is mandatory for postal workers, UPS, FedEx, deliverymen, and utility meter readers. Why isn't it for law enforcement? Smokey was truly a once-in-a-lifetime dog, and I hope that you will support this bill.
Thank you for traveling so far to share your story and about Smokey, and I know for your family. Members, any questions? Thank you for your testimony today. Be careful going back. Chair will now call Renata Simmons for herself and PAC. And you have to, Ms. Simmons, you have to tell me what PAC is, and it shows you're for the bill.
Yes, I'm Renata Simmons. I'm from Liberty Hill, Texas, and I am in support of House Bill 593. The PAC is actually an organization that we started after our dog Vinny was shot. What we do is we try to go to police departments before animals are shot, and we try to get them to take the canine encounter training. We explain the bill, and I've got a lot of positive feedback. I'd like to give a little background on myself. I'm actually a 30-year dog trainer and behavioralist. Dogs are my life. I'm with Find, Love, Train. We foster, we rescue, and we train all across the states. We go to schools with our dogs and churches. Vinny, the dog that was shot, is a therapy dog and my prospective service dog. When we take our dogs anywhere in the public, it's never a problem. They're perfectly trained for this. When our dogs are in our yard, they're not a problem. When people come to my home, I train and rescue out of my home. When you come through my gate, you may be met by 4 or 5 dogs. They're all full tilt at you, happy to see you, and hoping you have a cookie in your pocket. My dogs are non-aggressive. Now, on June 17th, our lives totally changed drastically. It's a beautiful day. It was Father's Day. I was in my office. I just sat down and 3 shots rang out. That was the most horrifying noise I've ever heard, and I can still hear it every time I talk about it. Sorry, I get a little emotional.
Okay.
Our grandson Landon was sitting in the yard that day. The officer where he was sitting could not have seen him. He was in the line of fire, though. He was sitting at behind some bushes at our picnic table. A bullet ricocheted within 4 feet of him. Landon is terminally ill. He's now 8 years old. We're blessed. He's been on chemo since he was 6.5 months. We fought every day to keep him alive. And then to think that in a blink of an eye, we could have lost our grandson, who we fought so hard to keep, is very emotional for me. It's very emotional for my entire family. And we're blessed. The bullet missed Landon, and our dog Vinny survived. There's no one in this room, I think, that can say that. But he also survived to prove that these dogs that the officers consider aggressive are actually canine good citizens. They're ambassadors for their breed. They're not all aggressive dogs. I think you will find, and I have in 30 years of dog training, that there are very few truly aggressive dogs. More dogs bite out of fear than aggression. If the officer would have had any concept of dog behavior when Roxy and Vinny went running toward him, he would never have pulled his gun. He might have pulled a biscuit. He might have turned around because they are going to sniff you, because they're just that type of dogs. They're very happy to see you. But they wouldn't have been shot. So it's been so hard. We do realize that officers know, that the officer did not know. I do truly believe the officer feared for his safety. He wasn't in danger, but he feared for his safety because he had no clue that these happy dogs running up to him would not hurt him. They're massive. My dogs are huge. I agree with that. What we've done is, once we realized this and we started talking to Chief Minden from Leander, he's actually pushed this training program through. He has done so much to restore my faith in officers. After the incident, Landon would have nightmares. He would touch Vinny and he'd look at me and he'd go, "Grandma, why would a policeman shoot Vinny?" And this is hard for him too. I come from a police and military family. My father was police. My grandfather was police and military. I grew up with policemen, so I had a very hard time reconciling my feelings, because it totally took away my beliefs. After meeting Chief Minden, though, we worked with him. He's helped Landon so much. We've moved on. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous up here.
No, it's okay. You're doing fine.
Now, like I said, as a professional trainer, I do understand that some of these shootings are justified. I do understand owner responsibility. I have pushed and taught that every day of my life. But a dog running at large should never be a license to shoot. I truly believe that if they would learn what is happening, even if the dog is aggressive or protective, that have better tools in which to go off and deal with them. And I've trained many officers. I helped Bertram Police Department even train some of their police dogs. So I understand them. The officers I worked with have been very, very, I'm sorry. They've been very excited about the bill. We've spoken.
And it sounds like the law enforcement community is very receptive to this, and that's good to hear. And there's several groups that are going to be testifying in favor for it. So.
Well, in all actuality, I've spoken to well over 100, 200 officers even about this bill. I found they are very excited. They're very interested. They're very engaged. The couple that I had a problem with getting the point across, I actually had my dog. They were so fearful of my dog, and he was standing there in a service jacket, perfectly calm. And I went, this is one of our problems. And that's why you want the hands-on training. You take a video course. Anyone can take a video course, a 3-hour one in 45 minutes. People do it all the time. If you have the hands-on training course, they actually get to interact with the dog. The instructor can see if there's a fear of the dog. They can try to work through this. It's so much better to have your hands on your dog. I can tell you how to train your dog, but I can show you so much better.
Right. And I think that's right. And I'll just use since you're here, you talked about the hands-on. There's a lot of Texas that is small police departments that have officers, there's a lot of financial cost to training like that, whether it's travel and everything else. And so I think that's something we're all going to have to think about, is the hands-on versus the video, because of the fact of the cost of small departments that I represent many small departments. And that's, I think someone asked about the video training. Did you ask about that? So, we'll have to visit with everybody and see, and I'll be glad to hear from law enforcement, really, the practical nature of it, because we want to make sure that they're able to comply with it. A lot of our small cities don't have the wherewithal to pay for all of the training. It's one thing, the big cities. I mean, Leander, you may not think Leander's big, but compared to some of my cities, it's huge. So it's a megalopolis. So.
Well, in all actuality, if you really look into the training, you'll find it's very cost-effective, especially just think of how the community feels and the distrust and all for the police departments. It's worth that. A lot of the officers I've spoken to and the chiefs have said there is a training budget. They could work this in. They do see that it would be worthwhile. I know you'll probably hear from some associations go, oh, our officers don't want it. It's not affordable.
I don't see any of that right now.
Well, I've talked to a few that went, this is what they were saying to me is, this is not really. And I said, at the cost of it, it's very worthwhile compared to the cost of what happens, as Cleveland was talking about, what happened in their community.
Sure.
I mean, Leander will tell you, when Vinny was shot, they got calls from not only throughout the United States, but they got calls from other countries. The reason being is I've been a dog trainer 30 years, and I am involved with organizations everywhere people heard. Every time this happens, we really hurt the relationship with the general public. And that, to me, is really important. We have to fix this problem. Right. We cannot have this happening anymore because it can get a lot worse. Children and people have been killed while they were shooting at dogs. There was a 25-year-old lady just died. I mean, there was a 10-year-old child shot in the knee. My grandson was nearly shot. This goes beyond the canine factor. It goes into the human factor.
Right. Thank you for your testimony today. Members, any questions? Again, thank you, and sorry for the loss to your family, and glad to see your grandson here. Those are all the individuals. We quickly have Melinda Smith come with CLEAT, Combined Law Enforcement Association. She's testifying for the bill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Melinda Smith, and I represent CLEAT, the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas, and I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 593. Until just recently, there was no canine encounter training available for law enforcement officers. Texas peace officers have long had to deal with aggressive or unrestrained dogs as a part of their day-to-day duties, and we believe that the majority of those encounters are handled without incident. However, there have been several high-profile shootings, and it has come to light that there was a lack of training that existed for law enforcement officers when it came to canine encounters, and that has brought us here today. CLEAT would like to do its part in ensuring that Texas continues to have the best trained law enforcement professionals in this nation. While many local law enforcement agencies currently offer this training, CLEAT also offers and makes this class available to officers across the state. We believe that more training could reduce the number of canine shootings in Texas. In addition to offering this class, CLEAT has been working with Representative Collier as well as the other stakeholders on this legislation to ensure that all officers are trained on canine encounters to provide a better understanding of canine behavior and learn alternative ways to subdue a potentially aggressive dog. I would like to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Okay. We also have members, Kim Vickers here with Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. If anybody needs to hear from him as a resource witness. With that, I believe it's everybody that signed up to testify. Is there anybody wishing to testify on for or against HB 593 with substitute Representative Collier? Chair hears none. We'll recognize Representative Collier to close very quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just watching everyone's reaction, I can tell that you are compassionate people, and this issue truly matters to each and every one of you. I want to commend the Acting Chief Canal from the Cleburne Police Department for their swift action and addressing the gap in canine training. I want to also thank Cindy Bowling and Mr. Middleton and Ms. Stoltz and Ms. Simmons for the courage to come here and share their experiences. I look forward to working with each and every one of you to make this bill happen and get it into the House and to the Senate. I want to thank the Fort Worth Police Department, Rick Van Houten, who has worked really closely with me, as well as CLEAT, the Texas Municipal Police Association, the SPCA, and Chairman Guerin, and also Representative Burns. If we pass this bill will ensure that the lives of Lily, Candy, and Smokey, their deaths won't be in vain, and we can celebrate them because of their sacrifice. And we want to just recognize Vinny as well, that he survived. But that wasn't the fate for Lily and Candy and Smokey. So for all of those Lily, Candy, and Smokies, we need to pass this bill. And for that, I ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I think if you'll work with, I think you're going to work with Ms. Giddings and Representative Guerin, and you're going to work with me to add something in there about some general ideas of animal. I think because it can be worked in very easily. I understand the focus on canine, but we need to make sure that officers have exposure. A lot of them are going to be the same reactions, so a lot of them are going to be the same. This is what I need to do, and mainly to make sure that they know who to call and the right resources in the department. With that, Chair withdraws Committee Substitute HB 593 and HB 593 will be left pending. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the
Chair lays out HB 554 by Representative